It's very exciting to be here, not just because it's Earth Day, but I got to meet Jim and his team and tour the Vantage 3 Center over here, stare out at the new building being constructed, meet some of you, and dream together, not just on a new model for data centers, but on Earth Day, celebrate the merging of Earth with data centers. And think about that and the future. Not just the ecological impact, which obviously is huge because these things need energy, raw power, but to look at how we can mitigate that power, as we've heard here about its efficiency of the PUE decrease from the norm. It's about 30%, but then entertain that data centers could actually be LEED platinum, that they could be close to transport, have materials that are healthy and don't off-gas toxics that impact the productivity of the people here, that those materials are precious and limited, that they could be recyclable and renewable, and their plans have integrated a high recycled content in the materials. They're looking at the lighting systems and sensors and clean power initiatives and driving down the efficiency and the energy. And it is a marketing advantage because many of these digital firms have green mantras, green requirements. Adobe has 5 LEED platinum buildings. It already performed well in their Energy Star ratio. Before LEED, they were around 80, 85. And once they took on LEED, they moved towards 100 in their score, and they keep improving. And we can learn from them and bring ideas here and share these new open source ideas here with the rest of the world. Because in green, we're not so competitive. It might be a brand advantage, but ultimately these resources are shared. And the ultimate of green is not just energy, but it's life. As humans, we want to live. We forgot that when we invented economy. Maybe we went right, but now the world is going left, and we're merging this idea of life, such a novel concept, and that we're of nature. Hello, we forgot, with economy. And my mantra in life, because I'm a businessman, I'm a capitalist, I've started 6 companies. I'm a reforming real estate developer. My first book was called Greed to Green. Now I'm back to greed, some people say, but only through green. Because ultimately, if you value life, you value fresh air. You value water that is potable and we can drink. When you don't have fresh air, and you don't have fresh water, guess what? You die. And we go to war over those issues. Energy is obviously important, and some of those wars are related to energy. And so what's happening here on Earth Day is we're waking up. We're not blowing up capitalism because it won globally. But what is happening is this idea of life and life-sustaining elements are merging into capitalism. And they're starting to hit the balance sheet. They're starting to hit the P&L on the income side. And in green building, as CoStar has in its reports, it's hitting rents and increasing them. It's lowering energy and water and waste, which is an operating cost. Rents are impacted by vacancy, and vacancy rates are going down in green buildings. And all of that gives you a net operating income, which Jim knows well and his investors stare at. And below that, it's capitalized. You divide it by a ratio that is of the value of the building. And you want the lowest cap rate possible to divide it into the net income to give you your building valuation that the appraiser uses. And those cap rates are coming down for green buildings. You see, if it's not green, it's not A. It might be B or B minus. If it's LEED platinum, it should be A plus. And ultimately, this is a journey. Platinum of today has to keep moving. We'll add the fuel cells, the solar, the renewable component. And as those technologies have a higher return on investment as power goes up, as tenants require it more, you will make more money through getting off the grid by striving towards regenerative. You see, green today is just less bad, but green to survive tomorrow is regenerative. It's sustainability means we can provide for the future. Well, as we go towards 7 billion people, we're about there right now. But in 2050, it's supposed to be 10 billion. And we cannot prevail. Because even if we all have solar on our roofs and hybrid cars, we still need those materials for those billions of people. We still have to build the roads. We have to transport people. And traffic is a toxic waste, and it's in every big city in the world. And so even if they're hybrids or Teslas, which wouldn't be bad, they aren't moving. And ultimately, time is part of the green equation. If you're out of time and sitting there in an inefficient life, it's not green. And what happens in traffic, your stress goes through the roof, and you start texting, and soon we have accidents. We're waking up finally as a species, and I think we're seeing that here, because this is a data center with private investors who want to make money embracing LEED Platinum. First of all, they use a lot of energy, so there's a return. But it's also pulling into the brand and the leasing, and ultimately the valuation of this company. And this company will be what Jim Collins calls a built-to-last company, a legacy company. Why does a Disney trade at a better price-earning ratio than some of the other companies? Because they're longer-term oriented. They understand you have to retain good people and keep them. Well, those smart young IT professionals today that are at all these firms down here, they embrace green. They want daylight. They want fresh air. They want individual control of their space. They want organic pizza and to bring their dog to work. And they'll work all night 24/7 and make you new scrappy products that make you a billionaire, if you meet those conditions of valuing their integrity as people. And to value the integrity of those who are studied, you have to give them good conditions and good space that are productive, because they can take their brain and go anywhere. And ultimately, this species does want to be happy and contented and not just a slave to work in a dark environment that isn't conditioned well, that's fueled with power that's increasing CO2 and decreasing our future survival. And so the billionaires of the future will be green, hopefully deep green, dark green. And those who don't embrace life and life-sustaining, they're going to be bankrupt. Because there's millions of people like me around this world who study the earth, who understand business, and who are going to ensure that we're rating everybody on everything that's important. Because making money is important, but survival is even more important. And what good is all your money if you have cancer? All your money can't necessarily extend your life. Well, we have cancer here on Earth, and it's depressing. No one wants to deal with it. We love this party we've had for about 500 years. It's a great party. But I love pizza and beer and chocolate cake, but ultimately I have to fit into my pants and not have a heart attack. And I have to become responsible that what I put in my mouth dictates my legacy and survival. And even what I put in my brain and my mind impacts my toxicity as a human. And so there's a whole greening of the spirit and greening of the mind as well, because I really believe that we still need to wake up more, because the greenies will all have Priuses and LEED Platinum homes and drive and solar on the roof, but we'll still be yelling at everybody in the old way of the 20th century. we'll have hybrid, carbon neutral bombs that will drop on those we disagree with, and then we'll cleanly compost them. Because technology will not save Earth. The only problem here on Earth is us, because we don't acknowledge we are of nature. Nature has no waste. It takes what it needs. It doesn't need 22,000 square foot homes and you have 4 others and your G4 to get around. The tree takes the sun, it takes in CO2 and kicks out O2. When the redwood's tired, it lies down. It decomposes into nutrients for the next generation of life. And what do? We take. We consume. We become consumers post-World War II. Aren't we more than that? And I sound kind of green here, but I'm telling you, I'm a businessman. I want to make the billion too. Of course, when I do my own home, it's 26 points over platinum, because I want to show how to do it. We capture every drop of water that hits that house, because water is precious. Why can't, when it rains, we capture it and put it in the toilet and flush with it? Why should you take water and pave over your pavers and it goes into the street, goes into the storm drain, and then we spend all this energy to treat it, to send it to the bay? We're smarter than that. So part of green is to use the intellect that we have, our ingenuity, our creativity, our ability to innovate. And that's what we're seeing here. A team of APs in the data center staff saying LEED Platinum is the minimum bar. I've never heard that, and I run around the world. I have to offset my CO2 and give speeches like this to clean my soul. But ultimately, whether you're green or not, doesn't matter. We are of nature. We want to survive as a species. When that soil turns to dirt and you can't grow food, guess what? You're in trouble. Are you a greenie if you want to grow food and survive? No, you're a human. But these humans used to have an E at the end of of that name. And we forgot that we need to be humane to each other, to our only home right now, because we haven't figured out how to live anywhere else. And we have to pull it through into this economic game that we've invented. Fine, we want to make money which can enable a good life and perhaps a legacy for our kids. But let's do it in a way that ensures life. Let's do it in a way that lessens our ecological footprint. Let's do it in a way that it increases health, and stewardship, and spirit. And when you work in the green field, something happens. I had this idea, we'll create the Green Building Council in '92. I was actually in San Francisco. I didn't know what I was doing. I was a developer, and I also, previous to that, studied solar engineering, just north of here at Stanford. And I wanted to merge what I learned in those classes with being a developer. But there was no room for it. They told me, go back to California, leave us alone. But I had a bigger dream of legacy in my life. We made money, but what was next? Why are you here? What's the purpose? How can you make this home better? Is there something you could be proud of? Not just you consumed more. And so we thought, we'll organize the US building industry as a group, not just architects or engineers or contractors, but everybody. And in '92, we had the vision of building this coalition of the 13 sectors of the industry. We had no products, no deliverables, no investors, no money. We came together with those whose eyes sparkled, those who dreamed bigger dreams. Said, will you join us? And in '93 at the AIA headquarters, we came together, 60 individuals, and we formed. And here we are in 2011 with green building councils in 85 countries. Over 60 or 70% of the building density in the world has a green building council. LEED, which we invented here in the US, is in 140 countries. There are now 100,000 LEED registered projects, a new statistic. And that adds up to 10 billion square feet of space. At $200, $300, $400 a square foot, how many trillions is that? We have 165,000 LEED accredited professionals who have passed our exam. It's an industry, this green building. It's trillions, and it's spreading to every country. And manufacturers and contractors, like the booths you have displayed here, from Toshiba or GE or Rosendin, they're playing in this game. They're growing in this game. Green building is growing at 30% a year, even in the down economy. And so this merging of economy and planet is occurring. If you're not playing in the game, you're missing out. And if you're playing in the game, as all those 85 countries of hundreds of thousands of green professionals, what they found is they get a deeper purpose. They're finding purpose in life, so that it's not just work and money, but it's legacy and stewardship and hope. And at the end of the day, that's what gets us to these green conferences. That's what inspires us to push on the owner who may not be going deep enough, or to not quit when the going is tough, to strive towards higher efficiency. And at the end of the day, when we go to bed and we put our head down on the pillow, that's what we think about. I have a little memoir out here called Greening My Life, and I received inspiration at the end of a life of a mentor, David Brower. In his 80s, he passed away. He was an icon of a man, founded 5 organizations, was the first executive director of Sierra Club, Earth Island Institute, League of Conservation Voters, Friends of the Earth. At his life celebration, 2,000 people came. All types, suits and ties, students, global, local, folks like Ray Anderson, who's the CEO of this carpet I'm standing on, Interface. Amory Lovins flew in, invented the Negawatt Rocky Mountain Institute. This guy inspired everybody to reach bigger. I was elated when they handed out this document called the Earth Commandments to the 2000, because I had written it, but he had inspired me to write it. We were at a speakers conference, and I was trying to raise the early funds for the USGBC, tired of funding it myself, working for free, paying for the bills when we didn't have enough money, giving away all the equity to a nonprofit, and still having a board tell me what to do. Pretty poor entrepreneurial risk. No equity, all risk. I said to him, I'm trying to raise the money, but all the money is going to the religious institutions, not the earth. Not that that's bad, because I donate to our temple. And he said, well, did you know, David, that when Moses came down the mount with the commandments, that there were very few people and lots of resources? I said, well, David, you're a mountain climber, 61st ascents. Why don't you write some more commandments and then go up the mountain and give them to the planet Earth? And he looked down at me from his 6'4" beaming archdruid height, and he said, no, David, you write them. And inside I heard a little voice that said, me? Who am I to touch that? 6 months later, I saw him, and he said, have you written them? And I said, no. I was still daunted. And he said, well, I'm ready to go up the mountain with you. I'll call my friend Jimmy. He gave that Sinai over to Egypt. I'm sure he can get us in. I hadn't met Jimmy Carter, but clearly he had. So 6 months later, I delivered a big poster frame to him at his favorite restaurant, Sinbad's, on the San Francisco waterfront, where he would count seagulls when you thought he wasn't listening to you. He really was. And we gave him the 5 commandments for the planet Earth. And then we went through each one. We shall make the land sacred and preserve the air, water, and all things that grow. And there's one on stewardship and one on only take what you need and the rules of nature. And I was much younger then and thought I had nailed it. And he said, thank you. I didn't think we would really be going up the mountain together. And I felt like it was an arrival. And then after 10 more seagulls he counted, he looked over at me, scratched his head, and said, this is great, David, but I wonder what we have forgotten. And that became the 6th commandment. So on Earth Day, I think about not only great buildings and companies that are platinum and envisioning the future, but I hear David Brower. What have we forgotten? We've forgotten so many things, but we're also inspired by the things we are doing. So in the honor of him on Earth Day, I would like to push all of us to go at it harder, but don't lose the humor of the process, which is what he advocated. And I think we can merge this economy with the earth and not be at war, and celebrate the billionaires and the IPOs that become GPOs, green public offerings. And through that, together, we can create the new earth. Thank you.